I saw this viral video of this Japanese student studying until a mason jar full of ice melts, upon which they get a reward. And instead of thinking this looked miserable and mind-numbing, I thought, oh man, this looks fun and motivating. For context, I'm an art streamer and I'm always looking for ideas to spice up the streams, to make them more interesting beyond just being second monitor content that you glance up at from your Genshin Impact session and go, oh, that's neat. Yeah, you're an apple in this scenario, I don't know. So today we're studying art until the ice melts. Now, in the original video it took him 9 hours, but he used a standard can of Coke. Coke Zero. I wanted something yummier, which brings us to the sponsor of today, Monster Energy. Just kidding, can you imagine? Slightly bigger can, fit less ice in there, life hack. But I didn't account for the fact that I live in Sweden in a building from the 50s and my room is probably 3 magnitudes colder than his is. Little did I know it would take 10 hours. So we better get started. The ice is in the jar and our first study is this frame from Studio Ghibli's Totoro. But this environment is also actually kind of f***ed up because there's a whole house in it. Guys, I think I made a mistake. There's something magical about the background paintings in Ghibli movies. They're detailed and meticulous, but if you look closely, a lot of the detail is just implied with a few brushstrokes in a masterful way, sometimes referred to as stroke economy, which is also what my wife calls it when... never mind. I think a lot of my favorite paintings are structured the same way. I don't care too much for photorealistic, completely smooth rendering. I love seeing the actual paint strokes and the artist's take on the world rather than complete realism. And that's part of what I'm trying to capture with this study. Very rarely do I match a study 1000% to the reference, clearly. I just don't see the full benefit in that other than to practice discipline, but again, just my method, you should do whatever works for you. It makes more sense to me to get what I want out of a study and then move on and try to apply it and spend that time on my drawings from imagination. Dude, when I hear the first little jingle jangle of ice falling down in the jar, I'm gonna get so excited. Did I make a perpetual ice jar? It's not gonna be ice forever. Did I make a fridge? Water drip. Oh my god, there it is. Wow. That's so beautiful. There's so much water in there now. Oh my god, look at that. This is actually doable. I've been here for 30 minutes, the water hasn't risen. Why are you a hater? Oh my god, the ice is so melted. No, it's not. A little bit. I want to shake the jar so bad. Just to feel alive. A little shake. Look at all that fucking water. Do you think ice melts faster if it's in the water or out of the water? Or do you think it doesn't matter? Do you think anything matters? Our Ghibli study is done and our ice is a quarter melted? Maybe. Next up, we're learning from the best. I'm doing portrait studies from Death Note. Takeshi Obata is one of my favorite artists of all time and Death Note one of my favorite manga. I think face structure, especially stylized face structure, is one of my biggest weaknesses, so it's one I want to tackle head on and not try and avoid. Portraits are incredibly difficult because we're so used to seeing faces that we can almost instinctively tell when something is off, even non-artists. The problem is we might not know why it is off or how to fix it. The smallest nudge in a line can change the expression entirely. That's part of what makes portraits so exciting, the challenge of it. Is the jar even cold? Is the jar full of ice cold? Yes. I think also the faces are one of the most crucial parts of any artist's style and design language. What they choose to include and take away, how they distance elements apart, how much detail they choose in specific areas. Alright, let's check in on the ice. We're 5 hours in and we're about halfway there. This is gonna be rough. At this point, I was already kinda over it. It's one thing to draw whatever you want for 5 hours, or even better yet, something that makes you money. But studying specifically and with no breaks is exhausting. Yeah, I get it. It's not piping poop from the poop pipe into the poop factory for 16 hours a day, but it's still tiring. Why do you do fun stuff when I'm going to bed? To keep you up. I need the viewership. I don't fully know what it is that fascinates me most about Obata's style. I think it's how effortless it looks. There's such realism and expression with such few lines. How they can go from neutral to mildly annoyed to perturbed to angry, and you can tell the difference between each step. If you haven't had the pleasure of reading Death Note or Hikaru no Go, please do. Our Death Note studies are done, and while these aren't nearly as good as the originals, I felt like I learned a bit, and that is the goal after all. Moving on. Bit of a comfort zone study for this one as I was running out of steam, a portrait from a photo. My focus on this study was value, specifically value compression and trying not to go overboard. Value compression is a bit of a dense topic. It was quite hard for me to grasp at first, but it's a method of simplifying values to aid a composition or aiding the description of forms. If you render every object with every value, you're gonna end up with everything looking overwhelming and plasticky. Everything will be shiny and shaded like a pillow. But compressing and grouping your values into very clear sections of shadow, halftone, and highlight will help your forms read immensely. It's of course though not a rule, and if you don't like how it looks, then you should do what you like and what works for you. It looks to be like 4 big ice chunks and then 1 small one. An hour and 10 minutes. Oh my god, I think it's gonna be right down to the wire. Why does it feel like it's slowed down the melting process though? That's kind of worrying. I'm trying to make very sure here that I keep the shadows separate from the halftone, but not so separate that they don't feel part of the same painting. Also keeping the bounce light in the shadow nice and true to the original, but not so bright that it borders on the halftone. It's gonna be so refreshing. Oh my god, I don't even want it anymore. At this point, I've almost completely ran out of steam and I'm calling the portrait here. I didn't nail the likeness and the hair is left very unfinished, but for the time I put into it, I think it looks alright. And I think sometimes ending up with a drawing you like is better than a 100% accurate copy, unless that's your goal, of course. The ice is so close to melted I can practically taste it, and I just might. At a loss for what to do, I pick a random photo off my Tumblr likes and we end up with a fancy fella. This is Nyaga by toymaker Yasu, and something about them just speaks to me. I can't remember when I saved this photo, nor do I know when Nyaga was made, but I just love the shine of the vinyl and the little feet and his tubular shape. He's like the world's fanciest bong. At this point, time felt like it was slowing down, and it was melting slower than ever. And I don't know, you'd think the less ice there is in the jar, the less cold there will be to keep the ice intact, but I'm no fucking geometrist or anything, what do I know? I chiseled on this study for a bit more, but was barely making progress, and we're kinda just running down the clock until finally all the ice was melted. Or, you know, mostly all melted. You can barely even see the ice anymore. You can kind of see it. Wow, all the ice melted! Time to crack into my reward. I don't even want it anymore, but... Ah, fuck. Oh my god, I can't get it out. How did I get it in? Yeah, no, that hits good. That hits real good. Was it worth it? Did I truly gain more out of this than just breaking a study session up into hour chunks and taking breaks? Probably not, but was it a fun challenge, and is it good to test your limits once in a while? Yeah? Yeah. Let's say yeah. Thank you for watching. This whole challenge was streamed live on my Twitch channel, on which I'm currently live about 5 days a week doing painting, animation, and 3D. Hope to see you there, and please subscribe here on YouTube as well.